Esteemed senators, what is our next move? The Senate meeting has just begun, and Yoshuk was the first one to speak up. He said that we should seek an alliance with Massalia and let them defend the northern borders, while we used our momentum to improve our legions, attack Noria and use it as a frontline city. But no invasion against the Getae who foolishly believed they could invade us. But Senator Cato had a different mindset. He wanted us to halt any expansion as our republic is in decay and chaos. We have lost too many men in Sicily and Greece. We needed to retreat back to our core regions to replenish our forces. And if we were to go for Noria, we should only liberate them and use them as a buffer zone, not occupy them. Yoshuk reluctantly agreed because we needed to be careful. Ponsford, the tribune of the plebs, also came forward with his idea and agreed upon liberating Noria, but we still needed to improve our navy so we could compete against Egypt and Carthage, who already have shown us how weak we are. Or if we didn't do this, our overseas territories are cut off from Rome, which would be really bad for our supply lines. To begin with, we need to figure out who should travel north to deal with the Getaeans. Pappus was of course in Africa, so it couldn't really be him. Licinius was keeping an eye on Carthage, so he wouldn't be able to do it either. Sulla was stuck in Illyricum, expecting an attack from the Odrysians at any moment, so he was also out of the game here. The only obvious choice was Rufus, who slowly had gained a lot of fame for himself as a great strategist over in Iberia, and he was no longer just the right-hand man of Pappus. He was accompanied by Scipio, former centurion during the Iberian campaign, and he took control of the Roman army in Latium and marched north. But sadly, it was a little too late as the Getaean horde attacked Patavium. Here, Scapula was in command at the time. He was a brave man, a true warrior. He fought on the front lines alongside his bodyguards, where they would have done anything for the Republic. But sadly, his body was found among the dead, and the city was lost. A bunch of Illyrian refugees arrived, telling us about the Getaeans taking control of their land, and they therefore asked the Republic for help. And with this, enough was enough, and Scipio laid siege to the settlement without Rufus, who still was a small distance away, because he had been delayed by the Massalians, who offered us a defensive alliance. And this was of course joyous news for the Republic, but everything has consequences in this world here, because another Getaean army had reinforced the settlement, sending Scipio on the run, and of course they caught up with him. Now there was nothing else to do but to fight. But have I ever told you how unorthodox Scipio is as commander? Clearly, he had fought under Pappus during his younger years, as he never used the usual Roman way of fighting. No. He yeeted that Triplice Aces formation far away and used what he called the inverted wedge. He would stay on the front lines and taunt the enemy into an engagement. And when they got close enough, he fanned out his units to trap the enemy from all three sides. An incredible feat, but although he was a general now, he found it much more fun to be right in the engagement. Someday, his bold strategy will get the better of him. But not now, as he won the battle with ease. But there was no time to waste, as Rufus attacked once again, this time with all units under his command. This was not the ideal engagement for the Roman forces. Our men were tired after the last battle. The Getaeans had formed up on a large hill, and they outnumbered us by a lot. Therefore, Rufus formed up in a wedge formation, as it would protect his flanks against an overwhelming force. But he needed to get the Getaeans down from the hill, and the best way to get something done is by doing it yourself. Suddenly, they charged down the hill. Rufus' plan worked. Now he just needed to get back. When it looked like the battle was going in the wrong direction, Scipio did what he needed to do. He charged into the enemy lines and fought like Mars himself. But at the sight of his death, his men rallied, and with utmost fury they fought back the Getaeans, secured Patavium, and brought peace back to Rome. We ended up having 5 years of peace in our land, which we would use to improve our provinces. And let's start all the way out in the west, in Lusitania, where actually quite a few things happened. The main settlement buildings were upgraded to level 2. We almost finished a level 3 fishing port. We improved the library, we improved the Temple of Athena, we did remove the Romanization edict because they could sustain themselves now. They had become true Romans and would help in future technology research. A very nice province now. Tarraconenses, not so much. They did get upgraded in their housing facilities and improved their fishing docks in one of the settlements. But they were still off taxes due to a lack of public order in the region. They were not quite happy or content with us being there. In Mauritania, down in Africa, we have built the Temple of Jupiter to make sure that they would understand what we were giving to them, why they should follow us, why it's not a bad thing that we occupied the land, but it's for their own good. We also constructed a fishing port so they could start giving food to Rome. And we also destroyed the barracks in exchange for an agora so they wouldn't start mustering new forces to attack Rome. In Hispania, apart from upgrading all the housing again, pretty much everywhere, which in a few years will give us a bunch of gold, they also acquired horse pastures in Ibosim, which will give us more food and a lot more resources to trade. We also converted the Temple of Jupiter and the workshop to a farmland and much more money-making schemes. Especially also because we gathered a lot more livestock in Numantia, which in turn will give us so much gold, as well as a lot of food. And they kept their tax edict, so they would in turn become a very prosperous region. In Sardinia nothing really happened except us expanding the settlement so we could build a new agora, but nothing has been decided there yet. We're gonna wait till we get Corsica back in the fold. let's travel all the way up to Cisalpine, where we've started to fortify everything up there, as they were on the front lines and pretty much getting attacked all the time and were at a very high risk in case the Iceni or the Getaeans attacked us again. In Sicily, they were converted back to Roman ways after the Carthaginians had taken over the land a few years earlier. It was definitely needed, and we also began building the military harbor so we could start constructing the new fleet, which in a few years will be up and running, because our new marines here will be much more experienced in terms of naval warfare. And then lastly but not least, before we go into the major provinces, we have Illyricum, where nothing happened at all except we finished the housing upgrades. Now, there are 3 more provinces we haven't spoken about just yet, but we might need to save those for a later time, as we need to understand something I said earlier. We had 5 years of peace. And that obviously means we aren't at peace anymore.
We will come for you in the night, and nothing will live. Not one creature. That is our war.
The enemy has returned to our doorstep. A Getaean army was marching towards Aida, which was where we were protecting the last remaining Illyrian refugees. They had to be protected somehow, so it was Sulla who went down there to defend them. Meanwhile, the 2 larger legions we had gathered in Cisalpine received their orders. We would have one of them march north towards Noria to liberate our former ally, and the other, led by Rufus, to travel down and save Ida from their looming threat, which Sulla's army wouldn't be able to defend them against. Though they surprisingly survived the first encounter, which actually just gave them enough time for Rufus to arrive with his legions. Too scared to engage the Roman army, they retreated into the mountains. Meanwhile, Legio II arrived at Noria, and because they didn't have a proper general at their side, they lost a lot of men. But they did their duty in liberating our former ally in Noria, showing the world we are a reliable ally. But these casualties were too high for our population to keep up, as we had to find another way to get more willing bodies into our armies. In comes the Marian Reform, allowing all citizens of Rome to join the legions, alongside some better equipment which was implemented everywhere. And with their new equipment, Rufus's army were eager to try it out. So they went into the mountains to hunt down the last Getaean forces. They tried to escape, but it is impossible to outrun a hungry legion. Now, with the Getaeans on the run, we have a few options to go for. Obviously, we're gonna liberate the land formerly owned by the Illyrians. But after that, we can try to make a second invasion of Greece. We could travel south and finish off Carthage, who currently are at war with Egypt, giving us a great opportunity to strike while they are not prepared. And then we have the third option, and that is to attack the Iceni. Now, they have grown immensely strong while we were licking our own wounds. They have almost taken control over all of Gaul, and they are threatening our ally in Massalia now. Now, we don't really need to attack them just yet because we're not at war with them, But in a few years, our allies in Gaul will all be wiped out, meaning they will not be there to help us, and they will all come for us. A dire situation indeed, which I will leave to the Senate to decide. No matter who we're gonna attack, we're gonna need at least 3 legions for it. And that also needs to be decided who should lead those armies.